Located in Wiltshire, Stonehenge has always been seen as one of the most enigmatic monuments of the Neolithic period, erected about 5,000 years ago. For decades, the most accepted explanation was relatively simple: a ritual space linked to astronomical events, such as the solstices. But recently, an in-depth analysis conducted with the aid of artificial intelligence has gathered data accumulated over millennia and begun to dismantle this traditional view, revealing something much more complex and possibly much more disturbing. But before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Initially, the AI wasn't trying to answer what is Stonehenge, but rather to identify hidden patterns among geological, acoustic, magnetic, and archaeological data. And it was precisely by cross-referencing this information that an unexpected hypothesis emerged. The stones were not chosen at random, nor solely for aesthetics or symbolism. They appear to have been selected based on extremely specific physical properties, functioning as components of a carefully designed system. One of the first things that caught attention was the origin of the stones. It was already known that the so-called blue stones came from Wales, transported hundreds of kilometers. But the geochemical analysis of the so-called altar stone revealed something even more surprising. Its composition does not correspond to Wales, but rather to the Orcadian Basin in the far north of Scotland. This means that this block weighing several tons traveled an even greater distance than previously thought, something extremely difficult to explain using the traditional methods attributed to Neolithic populations. This discovery not only reinforces the idea of an advanced level of logistical organization, but also raises another question: why bring stones from such distant and different locations? The answer may lie in the unique properties of each one. When artificial intelligence analyzed the mineral, magnetic, and acoustic characteristics of these rocks, it identified patterns that suggest intentional selection based on physical behavior. In other words, they weren't just stones. They were pieces of a system. When these pieces were combined within the structure of Stonehenge, something even more intriguing emerged: predictable and organized physical interactions that were too random to be the result of chance. AI identified similarities between this arrangement and modern concepts of vibration and resonance manipulation. This led researchers to consider that Stonehenge may have been designed as a type of engine, a system capable of generating specific physical effects in the environment, especially through sound. And this is where the story begins to take a truly unsettling turn. Accounts throughout the centuries mention strange sensations upon entering the stone circle: a subtle vibration, a discomfort difficult to explain, a kind of invisible pressure. For a long time, these descriptions were treated as psychological suggestion or mysticism. But modern tests indicate that there may be a real physical basis behind it. Experiments using digital and physical reconstructions of Stonehenge have shown that the monument functions as a kind of acoustic chamber. Inside the circle, sound behaves completely differently from the outside. Sound waves are amplified and sustained for longer, creating an environment where vibrations can be felt with greater intensity. Furthermore, some of the stones, especially those from Wales, possess unusual properties. When struck, they produce metallic sounds, almost like natural bells. And more importantly, the arrangement of these stones favors the generation of very low frequencies, known as infrasound. Infrasound is below the limit of human hearing, but not below the body's perception. It can cause real physical sensations: anxiety, discomfort, fear, and even changes in emotional state. When this information was integrated with the other data, the picture became clearer. Stonehenge not only amplified sound, it could generate vibrations capable of directly affecting the human body. This completely changes the interpretation of the monument. Instead of just a place for observation or ceremony, it could have been an environment designed to profoundly influence human experience. A space where sound, invisible and silent, shaped emotions, perceptions, and possibly even beliefs. When researchers considered this possibility, an even bolder hypothesis emerged. Stonehenge could have been used as a tool for collective control. Under certain conditions, continuous exposure to these frequencies could intensify feelings of reverence, fear, or submission, creating a highly powerful experience during rituals. This does not mean that the monument was built with negative intentions, but it indicates an extremely advanced level of knowledge about how the environment can influence the human mind. And the discoveries didn't stop there. Another study, focused on the mineral composition of the altar stone, revealed something equally impressive. The fragments analyzed showed extremely varied ages, some over 1 billion years old, others hundreds of millions. This specific combination only exists in a very particular region of Scotland, reinforcing the stone's distant origin and completely ruling out the hypothesis of accidental or natural transport. This implies that the builders not only knew where these stones came from, but also had the ability to transport them over long distances, possibly via complex sea routes. This level of logistics suggests a much more organized and interconnected society than previously imagined. At the same time, acoustic studies conducted by experts have shown that Stonehenge's circular shape is not random. It creates an environment where sound behaves in a controlled manner, with limited echoes and balanced reverberation. This indicates an intentional design, conceived to maximize certain sound effects within the space. When all this evidence is combined, the origin of the stones, their acoustic properties, vibrational behavior, and structural organization, a completely different picture of Stonehenge emerges. It ceases to be just a monument and begins to be seen as a system. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect is how the monument aligns with the sky. It has always been known that Stonehenge is aligned with the summer solstice, but artificial intelligence analysis has identified something even more precise. In addition to solar and lunar alignments, there is an orientation towards a specific region of the sky that does not correspond to any obvious astronomical event. This alignment is so precise that it can hardly be considered a coincidence. However, its meaning remains unknown. It may be related to stars that no longer occupy the same position today, or to rare celestial events that occurred in the past. What we do know is that this detail reinforces the idea of a highly sophisticated project, where every element, stone, position, and orientation was carefully planned. Given this, an inevitable question arises. Who would have been capable of building something like this? The traditional view of small tribal groups working collaboratively is beginning to seem insufficient. The scale of the project, the logistical complexity, and the level of precision indicate the presence of a strong central organization capable of coordinating large-scale efforts across generations. This does not necessarily mean an empire in the classical sense, but it suggests a more complex social structure than we normally associate with the Neolithic period. And perhaps most impressive is that there is no clear evidence of conflict or coercion. There are no signs of war, fortifications, or destruction associated with the site. Just a monumental, silent construction that required an enormous human investment over time. Artificial intelligence does not offer definitive answers about intentions or purposes. It only reveals patterns, connections, and probabilities. The final interpretation still belongs to the researchers, and, ultimately, to us. What we can say with some certainty is that Stonehenge was not built by chance. It represents a level of knowledge and organization far more advanced than previously imagined, involving geology, acoustics, astronomy, and human behavior. And perhaps the most fascinating thing is that we still don't know what the ultimate goal was. Could it be an observatory, a temple, an instrument, or something entirely different? Perhaps it was all of that at the same time. Perhaps it was a space where science and spirituality were not separate as they are today, but part of the same understanding of the world. A place where sound, stone, and sky came together to create a unique experience, capable of profoundly marking those who entered the circle. And perhaps, at its core, the true mystery lies not only in what Stonehenge is, but in what it represents about those who built it. If they were able to understand and manipulate the environment in this way 5,000 years ago, what else could they have known? And how much other knowledge has been lost over time? These are questions that remain unanswered. But one thing is certain: the more we investigate Stonehenge, the more it ceases to be a simple ancient monument, and the more it becomes a living enigma, challenging everything we think we know about the past. And now, I want to know from you. What do you think Stonehenge really is? A temple, a machine, or something we still can't understand? Leave your opinion in the comments, because this discussion is just beginning.